All right, guys, good morning. This is a second video. My chemistry students, you probably heard me refer to a quote that I was going to share with you guys, but I cut it out of the video because I wanted to record it separately so I could share with my forensic students as well. There's a quote that my colleague, who I respect a great deal, reminded me of this past Friday, and I wanted to share with all of you because I think it's that important. And I think that in order to fully understand it, it's important to sort of understand where I've come from. And to understand where I've come from, we have to look at my colleague, Jason Locke, and see where he's come from. And we'll give this quote some context. And I think that it could be a fruitful discussion to have in the coming days and weeks, and maybe even coming months as we go through with this social learning, online learning from social distancing. So really quickly, if you'll bear with me, I think you'll find this valuable. I know you'll find it valuable if you give it the attention it deserves. Really quickly, as a reminder, for the past 3 years I've been here at Peekskill. Before that, I taught in the Bronx, in the New York City public school system in Parkchester. And I taught there for 6 years. During my time there, I met someone named Jason Locke and a lot of other colleagues who I respect a great deal. And as a new teacher in 2011 in the Bronx, I had 3 primary places where I learned on how to be a better teacher. First of all, I was taking classes at Lehman College. So I would teach during the day, and at night I would go to a night class. And those classes were on how to become a better teacher. And so I learned some stuff from them. I learned some different skills and strategies during those night classes at Lehman College for how to be a better teacher. Secondly, is I learned from my kids right in front of me in my classes every day, every lesson. If the lesson went well, if I got good feedback from the kids, then I did more of that stuff. If the lesson went poorly and they didn't like it and they gave me negative feedback, I did less of that stuff. You know, it's a sort of constant way to evaluate if what you're doing with the students is working. Thirdly, is I learned from the teachers around me, specifically the ones who struck you as good teachers and the ones who had some experience. As a new teacher, you're just craving the feedback of more experienced, better teachers than yourself to try to learn how to get to that level yourself. So Jason Locke was one of those teachers who I respected a great deal, and it was so clear to me that the kids really respected him. So I asked myself in my night classes at Lehman, what can I do to be a better teacher? I asked my students, what can I do to be a better teacher? And then I would ask someone like Jason on like our lunch break, like, how do you do that thing you do? How can I be more like you because you're a better teacher? And so that's how I always tried to learn and how to live my life as a teacher, how I still try to live my life as a teacher. And the big thing that I remember learning with Jason was that the kids cared more about his work than almost any other teacher at school. If I gave a worksheet at the end of a lesson, my 25 students would go out the door and go to their next class, and there'd be like 10 worksheets left on the desk. They didn't even bring it home. Like, no, it was so unimportant to them, they didn't even think to put it in their book bag. And, you know, I would watch Jason's kids in the cafeteria, like feverishly working on an assignment. Like a kid who I know would never do anything for me would be working his or her butt off for Mr. Locke. And I'm like, what is he doing differently than I am? You know, to like get the kids to do this. And I remember always wanting to ask him about that. And I did. I asked him a lot, and he told me. I watched him and I just observed him in different ways, and sort of like I tried to get some information, to get some advice from him constantly during my time in the Bronx to try to be like him as a teacher, so that my kids cared as much about my work as they did about his work. And there was one big example, and this is going to lead to the quote. We had a fire drill we had, you know, you have like here in Peekskill, you have to do a number of fire drills every year. And our campus in the Bronx was huge. It was like 6,000 kids. And so every time we had a fire drill, you had to go in and out through security, through metal detectors. And so we would have a fire drill, and we'd be outside for a half hour. And I remember the one time most of the teachers, like me and a lot of the other teachers, would use that as a time to like socialize and talk and like, oh, we got out of teaching a lesson today. And our kids would do the same thing. They'd be talking to each other, no big deal. So you have a bunch of teachers who are just chatting and students who are chatting. And I look to the side, I see Jason Locke, my good friend, with like his kids have packets, and they're reading the packet, and he's teaching them on the curb of a sidewalk in the Bronx outside school during a fire drill. And I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. This guy's crazy. Like, he's teaching these kids during a fire drill. And he told me something that that I'll never forget. And he basically passed along this quote. And the quote is what he's going to remind me of in this video chat that we had on Friday. Now to go look back at where he came from quickly. You'll bear with me here for another few more minutes. He taught in Chicago for 10 years before coming to New York in 2010. So he had been teaching in like the early 2000s in Chicago. And then he was a new teacher like I was in 2011, where he was trying to learn a lot about how to be a better teacher as well. And there, a colleague in the exact same situation shared with him this nugget of information. Now, Chicago public schools, very difficult place to teach. A lot of the same problems that places in the Bronx have in terms of violence and in terms of challenging, situations for students and teachers alike to be successful. Jason Locke did the same thing. There's a fire drill. They're all outside, and he's watching this guy teach his kids. And he's like, why and how are you doing this? And the guy tells him this. The guy goes, Mr. Locke, I tell my students this all the time. And here's what he told Jason Locke, and here's what Jason Locke told me this Friday. So it says, you can learn now during this crisis, or you can choose to use the distraction as it is. But the world honors knowledge and skills learned, not excuses. So the guy tells Jason, he goes, this is what I tell my kids all the time. And the crisis is not what's happening now here in Westchester, like coronavirus. It's not that. This crisis is the social crisis happening in Chicago in the early 2000s, with all the crime and the violence in the schools, and the fact that good teachers come to Chicago and don't want to stay in Chicago, and they go elsewhere because they don't feel safe and they don't feel welcomed in the students. They don't get the best teachers because good teachers don't want to stay there. It's just this big social educational crisis happening in Chicago. And so this teacher tells Jason this. He goes, I tell my kids this. You can learn now during this crisis, or you can choose to use the distraction as it is, but the world honors knowledge and skills learned, not excuses. And so when I go back to my time in the Bronx and I see Jason Locke teaching his kids on the corner after a fire drill, he tells me this again. And then we have a video chat. Me, Mr. Locke, my friend Joel Gutierrez, Jason Mount. The four of us were really good friends, and we're all talking Friday. And I asked Jason, I go, remember how you told me you used to do that thing where you teach the kids during fire drills? And he brought it up, and then he reminded me of this quote. And so I was like, I cannot not share that with my kids, because look at the quote. It's written in the early 2000s for a Chicago social crisis, but we can totally use it now for the coronavirus crisis, for the fact that we're stuck in home doing online learning, the fact that we have friends and family who are sick with this illness or that we can't see. We have friends and family who we have lost. We have people who are, in terms of mental health, they are cracking at the seams because they can't be stuck at home for this long. And so this is a crisis. This is a big time, major crisis. And now if we apply this quote to that situation, I think it becomes really important. And I will be using this quote when we're back in the classroom as well, because everything around us, the injustices that we all face every day can be used as an excuse for not doing the best job you can, either as a teacher, as a student, you name it. But the fact of the matter is that the world honors knowledge and skills learned, not excuses. So look, I guess what I wanted to get out of this is that I'm going to use this to be a better teacher. I'm going to use this to remind myself that I'm going to constantly want you guys to be the best you can. I like to have fun. I like to make this stuff interesting and engaging. But at the same time, my job is to make you guys understand this. This is arguably more important than anything you will ever learn about chemistry in my class. That whether you're a 10th grader, an 11th grader, or a senior, whether you're in my chemistry class or my forensics class, it doesn't matter, okay? The point is that when you leave here and you go to the next phase in your life, the world around you will honor what you've learned and the knowledge that you have from those previous experiences, not the excuses that you're going to present. So let's say I'm a senior And we have to do distance learning from March all the way till June. Let's say this goes all the way till June. And so you get by from copying a Google Doc from somebody and posting it just so you don't get in trouble. You kind of do a so-so job on all your online work just so you don't get in trouble, but you're not actually putting any real effort into it, right? And all the other free time you have, you watch Netflix and you play on social media, and you're sort of just watching the time go by. When you go to college, in the fall. You have no teachers there to beg you to do your work. Parents and guardians might not be as involved to push you. And suddenly college seems really hard. For you to stay afloat and to keep up with the other students around you in your college classes, suddenly you feel like you're behind. And you're like, well, I don't understand why. Because the world honors the knowledge and skills learned, not excuses. Your college chemistry 101 class, your English 101 class, your calculus 101 class in college will not care that there was a coronavirus epidemic in 2020 and that maybe you didn't see it as important to do your online work. It will not matter. It will not matter. But if you use this time now, if you use your time wisely and you work your butt off, if you stay on top of all the work you're doing during the online learning component of school this year, if you have extra time, if you decide once in a while, instead of using social media, instead of watching videos, instead of like sleeping, if you decide to maybe learn even more, if you decide to read, what if you decided to read an extra book every month? Or what if you decided to like practice another language, every day, or learn a skill like playing the guitar? If you decide to learn something new and gain some new skills, that will make you better. And the world honors that. Whether you decide to go to college, or whether you decide to get a job that's not, like a trade job, all of those things will honor the knowledge that you've learned. But they will not care about the excuses or the reasons why you decided not to learn something new. So, you know what? Every moment you possibly can, guys, this is my advice to you. Every moment you possibly can. Every time you roll out of bed and decide to go to social media first. Every time you decide to roll out of bed and watch a TV show for an hour or two before you open up Google Classroom. Every time you decide to stay up late and play a video game instead of doing your work. Then when we go back to school, every time you decide to go to the bathroom and wander the halls for 10 minutes. Every time you decide to put your head down in class because you're not feeling it that day. Every single one of those moments are moments where you are deciding to not learn something, to not gain a new skill. And if you have a lot of those suddenly strung together, you're going to be missing out on a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills learned. And suddenly, whatever you want to do when this is all over, when this class is over and high school is over, whatever you want to do, the world will honor the knowledge you have and the skills you learned. And it will, in a way, punish you for the knowledge and skills that you avoided. And so I hope this quote maybe sticks with you. It sticks to me too. I'm no different than you guys. Every night I decide, hey, do I want to watch my show on Netflix? I'm watching this show on HBO called Succession. Do I want to watch that show? Do I want to watch Ozark? Do I want to watch these shows on Netflix for 2 hours? Or maybe do I want to go grab my guitar and learn how to play my guitar for a half hour? Or do I want to brush up on my Spanish? Or do I want to make a better lesson? Or do I want to read this really cool book I'm trying to read about probabilities and about ways of thinking? Those make me better. Some of the social media and the TV shows, they make me worse. So I am no different than you guys. I am presented with those things too. And the world honors the knowledge and skills that I learned, not my excuses. I was tired. I wasn't feeling well. I had a long day. It doesn't matter. And the thing that I try to do is I try to say, hey, some days I'm going to make the wrong choice. I'm going to watch TV and just have a day for me. But I at least acknowledge the fact that it's setting me back, and I make it a point to work really hard to push myself forward. I want you guys to do the same. I want you guys to know that every moment counts, even these moments of online learning. And when we get back to school, those moments count too. And we are all experiencing different things at different times, and the world is going to sit there and it's going to it's going to congratulate and reward those people who found a way, one way or another, during times of crises and during times of challenging moments, to push through and to be better. And the world will reward those people. And in a way, it will punish those people who decided to not use their time efficiently. So those little moments, they add up. So use your moments wisely. Okay. Watch my videos from end to end. Do your exit slip. Jump in the office hours for your teachers if you don't understand something. Read their packets, read their books. Go watch some more videos that relate to something you don't understand. Go read a book. Go get a digital book from Amazon and like read something as opposed to just letting your brain rot. Because when you're out of here, you will be a better person that's more fit to survive and to thrive in the world. Whether it's in college or a job, you will be a stronger, better person if you've worked really hard to gain more knowledge and more skills. All right. All right, guys. I hope that, like I said, I know this is probably kind of long-winded. It's just a quote that I will be using from now on, again, to remind me of how important it is to impart to you guys how important education is. So, like I said, I hope you guys found it useful. I hope you watched this and I hope you think it was interesting. And I'll be interested in reading any of your reflections. So feel free to comment on the video when I post it on Classroom. If there's anything that you thought was important, you can email me. Just let me know. All right, guys, have a great day.